You don't, yeah, no
Sign
kidding.
it out there.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is now 5:30, and I will call this regular meeting of the Burnsville City Council to order. It is our tradition to stand for a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, and we invite you to join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's good to see the members of the public joining us here in person tonight, and we welcome everyone. Our residents and our guests can also watch this meeting at burnsvillemn.gov/meetings or Comcast channel 16 or 859. The public can also participate through Zoom by joining us at zoom.us/join. More information is available on our meetings webpage and in the council agenda packet. The first item on the agenda is our announcements and proclamations. Our announcements have to do with all our upcoming meetings. Regular council meetings are scheduled for Tuesday, May 20th at 5:30 p.m. and Tuesday, June 3rd at 5:30 p.m. We have a work session that's scheduled for Tuesday, May 13th at 5:30 p.m. And we have a special work session scheduled for Tuesday, May 27th at 5 p.m. to do interviews for our board and commissions. And that meeting will be held in Conference Room D. All meetings of the City Council are held here in the chambers unless I announce that it's going to be a different location. This evening we have 4 proclamations, and I'll do it from that side. So it's always May and October, always seems to be the busy months for proclamations. Members of the council and citizens of Burnsville, the first proclamation is for National Police Week. Whereas there are approximately 1 million law enforcement officers serving in communities across the United States, including the dedicated members of the Burnsville Police Department. Whereas it is well known and accepted that law enforcement is an inherently dangerous and demanding profession in which dedicated professionals knowingly place their lives in harm's way to protect others who are unable to protect themselves. Whereas the dedicated members of the Burnsville Police Department play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of the citizens of Burnsville. Whereas nearly 60,000 assaults against law enforcement officers are reported each year, resulting in approximately 18,568 injuries within the United States. And since the first recorded death in 1786, more than 26,939 law enforcement officers in the United States have made the ultimate sacrifice and been killed in the line of duty. And where it is imperative that all citizens understand the challenges, duties, and responsibilities and sacrifice of their police department, and that members of our police department recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting citizens against violence and disorder, and by protecting the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And whereas the City Council of the City of Burnsville wishes to honor all law enforcement officers who, through their courageous deeds, have lost their lives or have become disabled in the performance of their duties. We honor our police officer Matthew Ruge and Paul Elmstrand for their ultimate sacrifice given on February 18th, 2024. Now therefore, be it resolved that I, Elizabeth Couts, Mayor of the City of Burnsville, on behalf of the City Council, formally recognize the Burnsville Police Department for their faithful and loyal devotion to their responsibilities and their dedication to our community, and hereby proclaim May 11th through May 17th, 2025, as National Police Week, proclaimed this 6th day of May. And I believe our chief is going to accept the proclamation, and then we'll take pictures afterwards. Chief, thank you so much. Yeah, and thank you for everything you all do. So we'll take pictures afterwards. The next proclamation is for National Public Works Week. Whereas Burnsville is committed to responsible stewardship of assets to allow our community to thrive. And whereas Burnsville is committed to innovative and supports environmental, human, and financial vitality for our community and future generations. And whereas public works service provided in our community are an integral part of our citizens' everyday lives. The support of an understanding and informed citizenry is vital to the efficient operation of public works functions, including engineering, water production and distribution, sanitary sewer collection, storm water management, transportation systems, public buildings, fleet service, and parks and natural resources. Whereas the public works professionals actively work to assess infrastructure vulnerability, mitigate risk, and respond to emergency situations in support of community resiliency. And whereas the quality and effectiveness of these assets is vitally dependent upon the efforts and skill of the public works professionals. Now therefore, I, Elizabeth Couts, Mayor of the City of Burnsville, on behalf of the City Council, hereby proclaim May 18th through the 24th, 2025, to be National Public Works Week. I urge my fellow citizens to observe this period by acquainting themselves with the issues involved in providing our public works and recognizing the contributions which city staff make every day to our health, safety, comfort, and quality of life. Residents are invited to meet with staff and view equipment used in our operations at the Public Works Open House. It is scheduled for Wednesday, May 14th from 3:30 to 7 p.m. at the Public Works facility located at 13713 Frontier Road, proclaimed this 6th day of May 2025. And our Public Works Director, Mark Ray, is receiving the proclamation. Thank you, Mark, and then we'll see you later for the pictures. The next proclamation is for Kids to Parks Day, whereas May 17, 2025 is the 15th Kids to Parks Day, organized and launched by the National Park Trust, held annually on the 3rd Saturday of May. Whereas Kids to Park Day empowers kids and encourages families to get outdoor and visit America's parks. And it is important to introduce a new generation to our national parks, and we should encourage children to lead a more active lifestyle to combat the issues of childhood obesity, diabetes, and hypertension. Whereas Kids to Parks Day is open to all children and adults across the country to encourage a large and diverse group of participants. Whereas Kids to Park Day will broaden children's appreciation for nature and the outdoors. Now therefore, I, Elizabeth Couts, Mayor of the City of Burnsville, on behalf of the City Council, hereby proclaim May 17, 2025, and the entire month of May to be Kids to Parks Day. I urge residents of Burnsville to make time to take children to a neighborhood park and state or national park. On Saturday, May 17th, the Burnsville Recreation Department is offering a free morning of fun at Alamagnet Park from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. There will be live music, entertainment, a variety of bounce houses, a hot dog lunch provided by the Noon Rotary Club, family activities, and more. Participants will also have the opportunity to explore Alamagnet hiking trails while participating in the scavenger hunt. We hope you all can make it. Proclaim this 6th day of May 2025. And Mr. Dave Erdl from the Parks and Natural Resources and Recreation Department is accepting this. We'll see you later.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then the last proclamation is for Child Care Provider Appreciation Day. Whereas Burnsville recognizes that child care has been and continues to be a lifeline for families, communities, and the economy. And whereas Child Care Aware of America and other organizations nationwide are recognizing child care providers on this day. The child care system supports children's growth, development, and educational advancement, and create a positive economic impact for families and communities. Whereas child care providers are essential to the health of our communities by fostering welcoming spaces, support working families, and creating positive and rich environment where children can develop lifelong skills. Whereas support for affordable, accessible, high-quality childcare represents a worthy commitment to help families work, support children's healthy development and learning, and keep our economy growing. Now, therefore, I, Elizabeth Couts, Mayor of the City of Burnsville, on behalf of the City Council, hereby proclaim May 9th, 2025 to be Child Care Provider Appreciation Day in the City of Burnsville, and urge all citizens to recognize child care providers for their important work and how valuable they are for our community. Proclaimed this 6th day of May 2025. And if Chief Schwartz, you can come up, please. Yep, we're going to take a picture. And Miss Rowley? We'll take one at a time. Yeah.
Yeah, we take those off.
Thank you. Nice to see this. Come on, you guys. Anybody else from Public Works?
Oh, yeah, perfect. They need safety vets on.
I
knew that was gonna happen.
She tries to hide. Good for you, Laura.
I can see you, but. Perfect. All right.
Picture of the city post. I have that picture of the city post when they put the public works week on.
Have a rooster tail. Or did you just put your face on something?
No, they put the whole thing on. Yeah. About 3 months ago.
Today.
The next item on the agenda is citizens' comments. This is the opportunity for anyone in the audience or online to address the council on an item that is not on a printed agenda and not an application form that will be coming before us at a future date. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes to address the council? Mrs. Collins, anyone online?
No one online, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. We will then move on. The next item is additions to the final agenda, and this is for emergency items only. Deputy City Manager Thompson, are there any emergency items?
No items from staff, Mayor.
Thank you. Members of the council? Okay, we will move on to the consent agenda. The consent agenda is a group of items that's considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. However, an item on the consent agenda can be removed for a separate discussion and vote. Is there anyone in the audience who wishes an item on a consent agenda to be removed for a separate discussion and vote? Seeing no one. Mrs. Collins, anyone online?
No one online, Mayor.
Deputy City Manager Thompson, does staff have anything to be?
Nothing from staff, Mayor.
Okay, members of the council? May I have a motion to adopt the consent agenda, please?
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you. The first item on the regular agenda is a public hearing, and this is a resolution adopting the neighborhood service assessment. And presenting this evening is Deputy Community Development Director, Mr. Travis Bistodeau. Mr. Bistodeau, the floor is yours.
Madam Mayor, council members, good evening. As you're aware, Burnsville City Policy calls for the biannual assessment of unpaid delinquent property maintenance fees that have accumulated throughout the work of the Neighborhood Services Division on a 6-month basis. Despite Neighborhood Services' best efforts to resolve complaints voluntarily, unfortunately, there's a few rare instances every year where fees go unpaid and are therefore eligible to be assessed through property taxes. Council adopted a resolution on April 8th calling for this public hearing to address those outstanding fees. Final notices for the current, I have a presentation, don't I? Final notices. Final notices for the outstanding fees went out to property owners on April 18th, and an open house was held for folks to come in and resolve those fees on April 23rd. The public hearing tonight serves as the final option for residents to dispute any of those charges. The current remaining balance, total balance for those outstanding fees is $6,874.75. And we are recommending that the council hold the public hearing to take any additional feedback from the community who might have comments regarding those outstanding fees, and after closing the public hearing, adopt the resolution moving those fees to assessments. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
And Mr. Bistodeau, at the writing of the background, there were no written objections that came in.
That is, Madam Mayor, that is correct.
Okay, very good. And none between that time and now?
Madam Mayor, that's correct.
Okay, very good. Any questions for Mr. Bistodeau?
Just
Okay, yeah.
one question for the general public. If there is a hardship or a financial hurdle, we do have ways to work with community members if that should be the case.
Madam Mayor, council members, of course, we make every effort to bring a property into voluntary compliance and work with folks that have financial hardship with regarding any of these fees. So we do work through that process with folks as needed.
This is kind of our last, we've exhausted all other attempts to get to this point.
Madam Mayor, council member, that is correct. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Mrs. Collins, anyone online?
No one online, Madam Mayor.
Okay, I will close the public hearing. Members of the council, your pleasure.
Move to approve?
There's a motion
Second.
and there's a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries.
Abstain.
And the clerk, there's one abstention. Okay, thank you. The next item is also a public hearing, And this is a resolution to adopt the 2025 street improvement assessments. And presenting this evening is Mr. Charlie Girk, our Assistant City Engineer. Mr. Girk, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor, council members, residents joining us tonight, thank you for allowing me the opportunity and your time to talk about the 2025 street improvements and tonight's public hearing for the street assessment portion of it. As the council may be aware, that this is the last council action available for the street improvement projects this year, with the exception of Southwest Burnsville. Some previous council actions included the ordering of the preliminary report last year, starting the process in motion. At the December 17th, 2024 council meeting, that report was received, and then council ordered the preparation of plans and specifications. At the February 4th city council meeting, we held a public hearing. Council directed plans and specifications to be approved and to go out for bidding. And at the April 8th council meeting, council approved the construction contracts for this year's street improvement projects. Council may recall last year in 2024 that the city completed a pavement management plan. These streets and these improvements are consistent with that street improvement or with the pavement management plan. Showing off a little bit of work from last year. This is from the Nordic Walden neighborhood last year, which was a full reconstruct project. On the left was the pre-construction condition. On the right is an aerial image from this spring. We can see some dramatic improvement to the pavement and to the neighborhood there. One of the questions that staff is commonly asked is, why was my street selected? A big portion of that selection comes down to the pavement condition and our pavement condition map. Every 3 years, a third party comes into our community, drives the streets and conditions and rates those streets on a pavement condition index, or the PCI. PCI is a number from 0 to 100. 0 is a gravel road, 100 is a brand new road. So when we look at our community as a whole, we actually have a relatively good PCI. It ranges, and the city engineer may correct me here, it's around in the high 70s for an overall condition. But the areas that aren't great are not in great condition. They are either in poor or critical condition. The map here shows some areas circled. Those are this year's project areas. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the future, but you'll see they're either red or orange, so either in poor or critical condition. When we have street improvements, we have three strategies that we typically use. We use a reconstruction strategy in neighborhoods that have old water main that needs to be replaced. That's a full reconstruction. Because that water main work is very intrusive, we tend to replace all the curb and gutter, the pavement, driveways get impacted, the boulevards get impacted. It's a full-on project. The next strategy that we use is reclamation. That's typically trying to address pavement deterioration that is beyond rehabilitation. That incorporates us removing the full depth of pavement and some amount of material below it to establish a typical section for the community. Our typical section in a residential neighborhood is 4 inches of pavement and 8 inches of base material below it. In those areas, we'll look at sanitary sewer issues, we'll look at storm sewer issues, and we'll also look at minor water main improvements. Finally, we'll look at rehabilitation projects. That's the top 2 inches of pavement, or mill and overlay as some people may call it. That's trying to extend the life of the pavement, trying to get more years out of it without spending a large amount of money that you would on a reconstruction or reclamation. We do look at partial curb replacement in those neighborhoods as well. Both reclamation and rehabilitation, when we're looking at curb, we're looking for areas that aren't conveying stormwater appropriately or have settled or are cracked and damaged. They might be unsightly to some extent if they're not conveying stormwater. All of these strategies, we'll take a look at if water main needs to be addressed. We'll also take a look if there's signals nearby, if they can be replaced or appropriately timed. If we can incorporate the complete streets or multimodal policies, we will. We'll look at sidewalk repairs. We'll do ADA improvements to our pedestrian ramps. And we'll look at tree removal that's compliant with our other city policies. And we'll also evaluate replacing streetlights. For the 2025 street improvement areas, we have 3 reclamation areas: the Rio Loma area to the northeast side of the community, the Morgan area, which is directly adjacent to the Williams Drive project, and the Carriage area to the south. So Rio Loma is to the north, Carriage is to the south by Twin Lakes, and Morgan is adjacent to Williams. We have 5 rehabilitation areas: the Abbott Washburn area, directly adjacent to William Drives, Burnsville Parkway East and West. Burnsville Parkway East does have residential on it. It has a tremendous amount of city-adjacent property as well. And then Williams Drive, which we're calling a rehabilitation, but it's a multi-strategy approach where we're doing some rehabilitation, some reclamation. It's all reclamation now, but for the most part, the assessment across the board for the adjacent property owners will be rehabilitation. And then Southwest Burnsville, which will have its own hearing as they have a separate policy, and that will be probably in the late fall, early fall timeframe. Looking at our project timeframe and how we've gotten here to date, we won't go too far in depth in this, but the project typically starts about a year out when we really start thinking about what we're gonna do and how we're gonna do it. We ask for the council to approve a preliminary report request, and then we send our staff and consultants out into the field to do condition assessment on the existing infrastructure and to collect soil borings and any traffic studies we may need. Through that time frame, we start defining the scope of the projects. We start nearing the end of the summer, we start sending out notices to residents that we're gonna be doing work next year in your neighborhood. And this is likely the proposed cost of that special assessment. We hold those open houses. We submit the preliminary report. If council approves the report and orders plans to be prepared, we then move on with plans. Through the winter months, we develop those final plans. We again have another public hearing. This year it was on February 4th. That public hearing is to, again, alert residents to the fact that there is a pending assessment and that we are preparing to do work, and for council to direct us to finalize those plans and to go out for bids. We went out for bid this year in April. Those contracts were awarded at the beginning of April. We went out for bid at the end of March, and those contracts were awarded at the beginning of April. We held 2 open houses last week. We received pretty good feedback from everyone that attended. The people in the Carriage area are very excited about this project, and the few residents that came from Rio Loma seem to be excited about their pavement being improved as well. We're at tonight's assessment hearing. This is the final opportunity to appeal that assessment. From here, we'll move right into construction. The bulk of the projects will start in July. One contractor won 2 of our 3 contracts this year, and they're planning on starting in July. The other project areas, so Burnsville Parkway East and West, will start in the coming weeks here, probably at the end of May, and move into May, June, and July for that work. Sometime in September or October, we'll have another public hearing for the Southwest Burnsville project areas. And then after all of our work is done, we solicit feedback from our residents to ask how our contract went, how the construction went, how our communication during construction went, and what we can do to do better in the future. Some other forms of public engagement: we send out lots of mailings. We're notifying you that the work's beginning, that we're gonna be in your neighborhood. We'll notify of the public hearings, we'll notify the open houses. We had multiple open houses this year, probably more so this year than other years because of the uniqueness of Williams Drive and the uniqueness of Southwest Burnsville. We attended Party on the Plaza. We received hundreds of phone calls and emails from residents with questions and concerns about the project. If we couldn't resolve those on the phone or through an email, we would meet in person to discuss those concerns. Moving on to the funding sources, residents' taxes pay for these improvements. The general levy contributes to the infrastructure trust fund. There's also a portion of the improvements that are paid for from special assessments, which is the purpose of the public hearing tonight. The utility funds cover the work that's related to the water main, sanitary sewer, storm sewer, street lighting. Burnsville Parkway, East and West, and Williams Drive are also funded in part by municipal state aid funds. Those roads have larger volumes of traffic, and we have designated them state aid, so that means we get some money from the gas tax to help fund those projects. We also received and were awarded an LRIP grant from MnDOT for the Williams Drive project of $1.5 million. Looking at the breakdown of the funding sources, 3 big takeaways from here. One, if you look at the special assessment portion, it's about 16% this year on whole for the whole project. 2, we do have that $1.5 million coming from the state of Minnesota, which is a tremendous amount of funding for our improvements on Williams Drive. And then we'll note that the total funding is approximately $8 million. Council may recall from the preliminary report, we were estimating somewhere between $12 and $13 million. But we had a very competitive bidding environment this construction season, which
Yeah, that was good.
citywide, Dakota County-wide, statewide, we're seeing lower construction prices. It seems that there may be a burst finally in the post-COVID pricing. So we're starting to see pricing more in line with 2019, 2020, which is good. So that allows our dollars to go further and allows us to do more work. Moving on to the special assessments methodology and the special assessment portion of these projects. Again, adjacent property owners are assessed for a portion of the work. They are not assessed for work relating to utility improvements. They're not assessed for work relating to third-party utility improvements. They will not be assessed for more than 40% of the street improvement, the street portions itself. And there's no other work that they'll be assessed for. Talking about that 40%, there's multiple methodologies depending on the property type that is adjacent to the street that we use per our policy to calculate that assessment. I think for the purposes of this conversation, we'll focus on residential. When we do a residential assessment, we're running a 3-year average of our previous cost to set the cap of what the assessment could be at that 40% level. So when we look at our special assessments and our costs for this year, we have special assessment values that are calculated based off of a 3-year running average of our actual cost. For residential streets, we normalize down to a 30-foot wide street, if we refer back to this image. So if you live on Burnsville Parkway and you have a street that's 45 feet or 50 feet in width, for example, we're not assessing you for the cost of that work. We're bringing you down to a 30-foot wide standard. If you have a road that's narrower than 30 feet, we'll reduce the assessment cost for those streets because of that narrowing of the street. We also do that for roads that are adjacent to multifamily, and then we also set a maximum standard for roads that are adjacent to commercial and other uses. Looking at this year's rates, the frontage rates are based on the last 3 years' average. I won't go through painstakingly through the individual rates. It is the last 3 years' average. The rate is set annually as part of the fee structure for the city of Burnsville. It factors in 18% overhead and does not exceed 40% of the roadway costs. So for a single-family home this year in a reclamation project area, they'll be having an assessment of $2,713. And in a rehabilitation area, a single-family home will see an assessment of $2,366 per unit. Looking at some other cities, we don't want to compare too much, but sometimes we like to compare. Burnsville, for a reclamation project, we're sitting middle to lower end of our neighboring cities and other communities that do assessments. After we receive bids per our policy, we do verify that the assessment is not exceeding 40%. This year, we had 2 project areas that exceeded the 40%. So we're requesting that those assessments be reduced to that 40% rate. The Morgan Reclamation Project adjacent to Williams Drive and the Abbott Washburn Rehabilitation Project adjacent to Williams Drive. For the reclamation project, we're requesting to change that assessment from $2,713 to $1,836. And for the rehabilitation project, we want to reduce it from $2,366 to $1,501. Those projects benefited greatly from Williams Drive being the driver of those scopes of work. They brought down the unit prices pretty significantly and allowed those prices to be reduced. Paying of the assessment.
Good.
Paying of the assessment can be done by November 15th in full. If it is not paid in full by November 15th, the assessment will roll on to the property owner's property taxes and can be repaid at the schedule listed below. Those repayments do include interest, and the current interest rate is at 5.5%. There are some special circumstances in this year's project areas. The state of Minnesota has a disabled veteran homestead valuation exclusion. Essentially, disabled veterans can, up to a certain property value, defer their property taxes if they meet minimum qualifications. That's a state-led program governed by state statute. Those properties, unfortunately, do not, that exclusion does not cover special assessments. So those properties will still see a special assessment. There's also the ability to defer an assessment based on hardship. That's granted by state statute and city policy. Residents that think they may qualify for that or want to discuss that should reach out to staff directly, and we can give them the appropriate forms and information. The deferral does continue to accrue interest, however, until it is paid in full once the property is sold. At the February 4th council meeting, we had some exemptions that we were looking for on the policy side of things. That was the Mahoney Townhomes, Burnham Wood Townhomes. There's a property off of Burnsville Parkway that's undeveloped and quite large. And then 3 properties on the north side of Old County Road 34 Place. We're requesting that those exceptions stay in place. With the addition of one more, 2732 Sunset Lane. Their backyard here is on Williams Drive. The way the policy reads is we assess based off of where you gain access. This property is the only property that is off of Sunset that gains their primary access off of Williams Drive. The property had been previously assessed on Sunset in the 90s. We request that this property be assessed with its neighbors in a uniform to make staff have an easier time in the future to be able to track assessments, that we continue the assessment for this property off of Sunset Lane. Objections. Residents and property owners can object to the assessment. It has to be in writing and submitted before the end of this public hearing. Objecting property owners then have 30 days to appeal that assessment once the assessment is adopted. To date, we have received no objections to this year's projects. Staff is recommending that council order and hold the public hearing here, that council accepts the policy deviations, and that they approve the resolution adopting assessments on the 2025 street improvement projects, 25-101, 102, and 105. And I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Girk? Councilmember Workman.
Couple of questions. Thank you for getting on Ria Loma. My kids have been asking for a hoverboard, and I told them they're gonna have to wait because they wouldn't be able to use it this summer anyways with this going on. Not necessarily specific to this project, but if a homeowner has been assessed in a past project and has been deferring those payments, are they able to then get onto a payment plan after the project has been completed? Or, I guess maybe Mark can help me out with that one.
Yeah, I'll field that one. Actually, I'm going to defer to the city attorney to best outline the process for that
Okay,
one.
I've just been asked a couple times about this.
Mr. Shepherd.
Yeah, Mayor and members of the council, we would need to have that property owner work with staff and potentially do a petition and waiver for that outstanding amount and come back for kind of a redo of that special assessment to make sure that we're getting all that amount wrapped up on a new kind of payment plan.
Okay.
Yeah, so it would be a petition waiver process. We've been talking about it, Mark and I, so they just need to contact city staff and we can help them out.
So yeah, close the loop. We are finalizing the process for what that would be, and then we'll be circling back to you to follow up with those residents.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Mr. Girk? Okay. Nice job, by the way, in those reductions also. It's very nice.
I'll thank our contracting partners with their competitive bid environment this year.
It's really nice, yeah. Okay, Councilmember
Just a real quick
Aquino.
question. Does easy math, you were anticipating what for the total cost?
The preliminary study showed somewhere between 12 and
Yeah.
$13 million
Yeah.
for the
That
work
came
this
in
year.
at 8, so that's a
That's a
pretty
big,
substantial, about 30%.
Yeah, and then we're seeing that industry-wide. That's not just Burnsville. Apple Valley, Lakeville, Edina, Inver Grove Heights have all seen 20 to 30% below their engineers' estimates this
yeah,
year.
And engineers' estimates are based on the
Past
last-
costs.
Yeah, past cost,
Yeah.
which we got, I guess, yeah, it was very high. Just to put it that way, it was
Because
extraordinarily high.
because when I first saw the assessments at 12 and 13, I thought, ooh, this is an expensive year, because it's usually around 10 million. And then when I saw those numbers, it was like 12 and 13. And then when tonight, it's at 7. It was,
What a great year for that to happen.
Yeah.
yeah, very well done, very well done. Okay, if there are no other questions for Mr. Girk, I will open the public hearing. This is a public hearing, and this is for street improvements on Burnsville Parkway East and West, Carriage area, Rio Loma, Morgan and Abbott, Washburn area. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Did you get your questions answered by,
I got all the other questions answered. Let me know
why don't you come to the, and give us your name and address for the record? And Mr., I know you talked with Mr. Ray. Give
Oh,
us your,
yes. My name is Rex Smith. I live at 11704 Sierra Court, and the assessments are pretty good. And the question is, do we just bring the check into the check? Well,
yeah, that's a good question. So I'm going
how
to go,
do people pay it? I mean, you know, can we just drive by and drop it off at the clerk?
so our deputy city manager, CFO, is
She's shaking
Mrs.
her head
Rhodey.
like
Yes. Mrs. Rhodey?
paperwork, huh?
Yes, I believe you can just drop a check off
Yes.
if you'd like.
I do that. I just drop it off.
Okay.
Does the city take Venmo?
You got it. You can pay for me. Thanks.
Or
Thank you
PayPal?
so much. Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Mrs. Collins, anyone on?
No one online, Mayor.
Okay, very good. Seeing no one, I will close the public hearing. Members of the council, your pleasure.
Move to approve.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you very much. The next one is also yours, Mr. Girk, and this is another public hearing, and this is a resolution adopting the 2025 HOC Streetscape Special Assessment. I forgot my check in there.
Madam Mayor, council members, thank you again for your time. We'll be presenting the HOC Streetscape Assessment hearing here. As the council may be aware, that the heart of the city has special amenities that require additional operation and maintenance costs for the city that then is applied and assessed directly back to directly and indirectly benefiting property owners. Some of those amenities include the colored sidewalk and trail segments, street lighting, banners, snowflakes, the Christmas lighting, extra and additional boulevard and median maintenance, additional trees, shrubs, hanging baskets, plantings, flowers, and there's a lot of other amenities. Council may recall that in 2022 that the policy was updated. Last year was the first year that the policy was assessed. This is the second year. So as a reminder, previously the blue areas in this map were part of the assessment policy. They were directly benefiting properties and they were assessed by front footage and square footage. The pink areas were not previously assessed, but have a direct benefit, and so they are now also being assessed for front footage and square footage. And the yellow areas are indirectly benefiting from the work, and they will be assessed only by square footage until the streetscape is expanded throughout the district. We assess direct labor to the residents and adjoining property owners. Last year, the full cost for the additional operational and maintenance costs for the HOC was $384,000. The city assesses 50% of that cost to those adjoining property owners. This year's assessment total is approximately $169,000. You might see that that's not $192,000. That's because not only does the city split the cost 50%, but we also assess our own properties in that district as if we're a property owner. And that's why we're at $215,000. This is a public hearing. Anyone that wants to object to the assessment needs to submit in writing before the end of the public hearing. Objective parties then have 30 days to appeal that assessment once adopted. Staff is recommending that that council holds the public hearing and that the resolution approving all of the streetscape assessments is adopted.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Kerr? Okay, your button isn't working? Councilmember Workman?
Sorry for all the questions tonight. Just wondering how this is gonna look with the addition of several of the new apartment buildings in the area. Obviously, there's probably going to be a more intensive use of things like sidewalks and other interactive items with several hundred new residents in the area. This is based on a per unit assessment right now, correct?
It is actually based off of street frontage and total square footage of the buildings.
Okay.
So with new larger buildings, the overall assessment, if the dollars stay equal, will go down for every user or every individual or every property owner that's assessed.
Okay.
So I live in the area and I'm in a condo. And so we get assessed for our portion.
Right.
So it's a building of about 92 units,
I'm just
and it's all broken down.
trying to think, looking into the next 5 to 10 years, a partially vacant commercial building versus a fully occupied apartment building is going to have a different impact on the area. I don't know that we need to recalculate anything or do anything now. I'm just trying to think of, how the density is changing in that area. If that's something, in a 3 to 5 years, if we have to kind of reevaluate that. But that was all I was looking for. Thank you.
This is a public hearing, and I will now open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Mrs. Collins,
No one online, Mayor.
members of the council, your pleasure.
Move to approve?
One is seconding. So, Councilmember Workman, do
No,
you?
second?
You will second?
Did we close the public hearing?
Yes, I did. Close the
Okay.
public hearing and then ask for the
Okay.
pleasure of the council. Yeah, so Councilmember Keely made the motion, second by Councilmember Workman. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you very much, Mr. Gert.
You got me one more time.
Okay. So, I think this is your last one, huh? Yeah, this is a public hearing, and this is a resolution to approve the 2025 miscellaneous assessments. Mr. Gert.
Madam Mayor, council members, thank you again. I'll be presenting to you the miscellaneous assessment hearing tonight, the public hearing for what would be miscellaneous assessments. The only miscellaneous assessment we have this year, and as tradition for previous years, is false alarms. The city of Burnsville responds appropriately when an alarm goes off in a building, whether it's a private property, commercial, or residential. We allow 3 of those to be fake or false, or mistripped. Once a property has 3 false alarms, we start charging for those false alarms. This year, there are 12 properties that have unpaid amounts for those false alarms. That totals in $4,980. As of today, there is no formal written objections. If someone being assessed or a property owner being assessed would like to object, they need to do so in writing by the end of this public hearing. And then they have 30 days to appeal that hearing beyond us. Staff recommends a resolution approving all miscellaneous assessments, and I'll stand for any questions.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Gert? This is a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Mrs. Collins,
No one online, Mayor.
closing the public hearing. Members of the council, your pleasure.
Move to approve?
There's a motion.
Second.
And there's a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Very
Thank
well
you,
done.
council.
Yeah. The next item is also a public hearing, and this is to approve a reseller's precious metal license for Teddy's Gold and Silver LLC, doing business as Teddy's Gold and Silver at 14250 Plymouth Avenue. Presenting is our Deputy City Clerk, Mrs. Erica Henderson. Mrs. Henderson.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. So as the mayor had said, this is a public hearing for Teddy's Gold and Silver LLC, doing business as Teddy's Gold and Silver. They had submitted an application for a reseller's license for 14250 Plymouth Avenue South, which is the strip plaza located behind Chianti Grill there. The police department have conducted their background check, and nothing was found on the principals involved to deny the application. And city code does require a public hearing for all new reseller license applications.
Okay. Any questions for Mrs. Henderson? Okay, thank you. This is a public hearing, and I will open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Anyone who wishes to speak to this item? Mrs. Collins?
No one online, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I will close the public hearing. Members of the council?
Move to approve.
But,
Second?
Mrs. Collins, you got that? Do you know who made
Schultz, I
the
think.
motion?
I'm gonna get one eventually.
Motion by Councilmember Workman, second by,
Okay, because I thought I heard Councilmember Schultz.
oh, I'm sorry, Councilmember Schultz, there you go.
We have it. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you so much, Mrs.
Thank you.
Henderson. Good evening. And
He's asking all the questions he should.
the next item is a resolution to award the sale of our general obligation bonds, Series 2025A. Our Deputy City Manager, CFO, Mrs. Jennifer Rhodey, is presenting and will also present Mr. Tintner, who has been working with us. So, Mrs. Rhodey.
Yeah, good evening, Madam Mayor, council members. The item before you tonight is the award of sale of the 2025A bonds, which will fund and finance the Police City Hall project. We work closely with our municipal advisors at Ellers as we issue bonds, each series of bonds. And they received proposals this morning, and Mr. Dan Tintner will be here to present the results of those sales and a recommendation for the award of the sale.
Thank you. Mr. Tintner, good evening and welcome. We've been on this journey for quite a while.
Your Honor, members of the council, yes, that's correct. It seems like this night has been a
And
long
here we
time
are.
coming. As the Deputy City Manager mentioned earlier today at 10 a.m. at your direction and on your behalf, Eller solicited proposals for up to $73 million in general obligation capital improvement plan bonds to support the expansion and renovation of your combined city hall and police station. It's worth noting that earlier today, the city received 8 bids, and it was considered really a strong test of the market, with the low bid being at 3.96% and the high bid being at 4.08%. So about a 12 basis point spread between 8 bidders. So we would generally consider this a good test of the market, given the number of bidders and the relatively tight spread that we were seeing among them. So ultimately, we feel good about the interest rate that was received in terms of the market today. It's worth noting that at pre-sale, we were estimating about 4.39%. On the bonds. And in fact, for the FMP, Madam Mayor, as you mentioned, on this journey, we had discussed 20 years at 4.5%. So the interest rate this evening is below the pre-sale estimate. It's also below the FMP estimate. So ultimately, the city received a 4.275 approximately premium on the bonds. After discussing the premium with city staff, much like you've done in the past, the city opted to reduce the size of bonds by that premium. As a result, the award resolution presented this evening, in fact, is for $68,610,000. And so I would request that if a motion be in order after my presentation, that the motion reflect that revised par amount. Ultimately, as the council knows, there will be a second tranche or series of bonds likely issued late summer or fall of next year, once you deplete these bond proceeds to pay for the balance of the construction project. And as Deputy City Manager mentioned, we have had numerous conversations both with the council and staff about the kind of structure as well as the timing of the various bond issues. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions on the process to date, the sale earlier today, or any of the items I've covered this evening.
No, Mr. Tintner and Deputy City Manager, CFO Rhodey, excellent work, because we also came below what we had looked at in the FMP for this particular project. And so it's good news, especially looking at what's been going on Wall Street, and to get this kind of rate is truly good news. Yeah. Members of the council, questions? So I need a motion, if you could read the resolution that is before us, because that's what, Mr. Tintner, you're asking for.
Your Honor, members of the council, just to reflect the 68.8
Yes.
1 million.
Yes. So may I have a motion to approve the resolution awarding the sale of general obligation capital improvement bonds, Series 2025, in the original aggregate principal amount of $68,610,000, fixing their form and specifications, directing their execution and delivery, and providing for their payment.
So moved. Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Your Honor, members of the council. It's been a joy to be on this journey with you.
Well, it's not over yet. Yes, thank you so much. Mr. Thompson, is there anything else to come before the council?
Nothing for staff, Mayor.
Okay, there's nothing else on the docket for this evening, and a motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
There's a motion,
Don't anyone second that?
Second.
and there's a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay, and the motion carries. Good night, and thank you for being with us.